My daughter looked across the kitchen table and told me I had become too forgetful to handle my own money. She said it gently, almost lovingly, while sliding a power of attorney form toward my hands. But the next morning, my banker called and asked why I had transferred nearly $40,000 to an account I had never seen. I hadn't transferred a dime. When I asked for the account holder's name, the banker paused before saying the one name I prayed I would not hear. My daughters. If you believe getting older should never mean giving up control of your own life, subscribe to Truth and Dignity Stories. Like this video, and tell me in the comments, would you ever sign financial paperwork a family member brought you without reading every line first? The banker's name was Helen Price. I had known her for years. She had helped William and me open the savings account that held our emergency fund. She had once stayed 15 minutes past closing to explain a certificate of deposit to my husband because he did not like signing anything he did not fully understand. That was how William lived. He read every contract. He checked every total. He kept a small notebook in the top drawer of his desk where he wrote down every major purchase we made, right down to the price of the furnace we installed in 2007. After he died, I kept that notebook, not because I needed to remember the price of a furnace, but because those pages reminded me that our life had been built carefully, dollar by dollar, decision by decision. So when Helen called me the morning after my daughter, Melissa, had placed that power of attorney form in front of me, I knew from the tremble in her voice that this was not a casual question. Rebecca, she said, I need to ask you about 3 outgoing transfers from your savings account. I have not made any transfers, I told her. There was a pause. Then she said, would you be able to come into the branch today? I can be there in 20 minutes. You do not need to bring anyone with you, she said carefully. In fact, I would prefer to speak with you privately first. That sentence stayed with me as I hung up the phone. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, looking at the unsigned power of attorney form Melissa had left behind. It was still there, beneath a salt shaker. And the electric bill. The paper had looked so harmless the night before. Melissa had come over carrying chicken soup and a bag of groceries. She kissed my cheek, checked the refrigerator, and asked whether I had been sleeping enough. She had always known how to sound concerned. That fall shook you up, Mom, she had said. I had slipped on a wet grocery store floor 6 weeks earlier. Nothing had broken, but I had bruised my hip badly and spent 2 nights in the hospital because my blood pressure had spiked. Melissa visited every day. She brought crossword books, soft socks, and my favorite peppermint tea. She told the nurses she would make sure I had everything I needed once I got home. At the time, I had felt grateful. I had not understood that concern could be used as a costume. The evening she brought the power of attorney form. She sat across from me with her hands folded. I just worry about you, she said. I'm doing better. I know. But things happen. What if you forget to pay a bill? What if you get sick again? You need someone who can step in? I have automatic payments for the utilities. Mom, that's not the point. Then what is the point? She smiled. But it was the kind of smile people use when they want you to feel foolish for asking a question. The point is that you should let family help you. I picked up the document. The print was small and dense. I had read the first paragraph when Melissa reached across the table and touched my wrist. You don't have to do it tonight, she said. Just think about it. I said I would. Then she changed the subject so quickly that I barely noticed. She asked whether I had spoken to my neighbor Linda. She told me about her son Tyler's baseball season. She complained about the price of groceries. By the time she left, I had almost convinced myself I was being stubborn. That was Melissa's gift. She never demanded control in a loud voice. She made you feel guilty for keeping it. At the bank, Helen met me near the entrance instead of behind her desk. She led me into a small office with frosted glass walls. There were 2 chairs, a round table, and a framed photograph of the Willow Creek courthouse hanging crookedly on the wall. "Before we begin," she said, "are you comfortable talking without anyone else present?" "Yes." "Has anyone been pressuring you to make transfers? Change account information? Or sign document?" The question made my stomach tighten. "My daughter asked me to sign a power of attorney last night." I said, "I did not sign it." Helen nodded and opened a folder. 3 wire transfers were initiated from your savings account over the past 11 days, she said. The total is $39,750. I stared at her. That cannot be right. I was hoping you would say that. She placed the printed transaction history in front of me. The first transfer was for $12. Wu Bei. The second was for $14. 750. The third was for $12. Wu Bei. All 3 went to an account at another bank. Account holder: M. Carter. I looked at the name and felt something inside me resist. My daughter's name is Melissa Clark. Helen folded her hands. Her married name is Carter. Correct? My mouth went dry. Melissa Carter. She had used her married name for the transfers. The name she rarely used around me because she had kept Clark professionally after her divorce from Jordan. She knew I would not recognize it immediately. "How were these transfers approved?" I asked. Helen looked down at the paperwork. 1 was initiated through online banking. 2 were requested in person. In person? Yes. By whom? The documentation lists you. I felt the room around me grow distant. I was not here. Helen turned a second paper toward me. It was a copy of a withdrawal request. Rebecca Clark. The signature did not look exactly like mine, but it looked close enough to frighten me. "Do you remember coming into the bank on May 9th? Helen asked. "No. I was at home all day." The request was processed at 2:17 p.m. I was home. Linda came over at 2 to help me change the sheets in the guest room. Helen nodded. "That may be helpful." "Why would someone pretend to be me?" She did not answer right away. Instead, she pulled out a security still from the branch camera. The image was blurred, taken from above the lobby doors. But the woman entering the bank wore a blue coat I recognized immediately. It belonged to me. My late husband bought it for me during a trip to Cleveland. I had worn it every winter for nearly 10 years. It had a brass button missing near the cuff, and a small dark spot on the left pocket from the time I spilled coffee in the car. The woman in the image was carrying my purse, too. I felt my hand fly to my mouth. "That coat was in my closet," I whispered. Helen did not look surprised. "Rebecca," she said gently, "has anyone had access to your home recently?" "Melissa." The answer came before I could stop it. Melissa had a key. She had always had a key. After William died, he gave one to her and one to Daniel. I told them it was only for emergencies. But Melissa had begun coming by more often after my fall. She would bring groceries. She would clean the kitchen. She would offer to put away laundry. Once, I had come downstairs and found her standing near the desk in my den. "What are you looking for?" I had asked. She smiled and said, "Nothing. I was trying to find stamps." At the time, I believed her. I believed everything because she was my daughter. Helen told me the bank would immediately place a temporary freeze on outgoing transfers from my accounts. She said their fraud department would review the transactions and the footage. She also told me that if I believed someone had impersonated me, I should contact law enforcement and speak with an attorney. I sat there with the printouts in front of me and felt a terrible shame settle over me. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because I had been fooled. I had spent my whole life thinking I was a careful person. I paid bills on time. I filed receipts. I had worked at the Willow Creek Library for 28 years, helping people find answers when they did not know where to look. And still, I had not seen what was happening under my own roof. Helen must have understood what I was feeling. "This is not your fault," she said. I looked up at her. "You don't know that." "I know that trust is not permission," she replied. "And I know the bank has procedures for a reason. We will review whether they were followed." That was the first time I let myself breathe. When I got home, I did not call Melissa. I wanted to ask her how she could wear my coat, carry my purse, and look a teller in the eye while pretending to be me. But I remembered the sound of Helen's voice. "Preserve what you have." So I did not accuse anyone. I documented. I called Linda and asked her to write down the date and time she had been at my house on May 9th. She did it immediately. Then she asked why. I told her the truth. Linda sat silent on the other end of the line. "Finally," she said. "Rebecca, I saw Melissa leave your house that morning." I gripped the counter. "What? She came out your front door around 10? I remember because she had that big navy tote bag. And she seemed in a hurry." I waved, but she barely looked up. "My blue coat. My purse. A navy tote bag." The picture in my mind became clearer. And with every detail, the pain became sharper. Melissa had not simply taken money. She had rehearsed being me. That evening, she came over as if nothing had happened. She carried a container of pasta salad and a bouquet of grocery store flowers. I watched through the front window as she walked up the path, cheerful and unhurried. For 1 second, I almost opened the door and told her I knew. Instead, I opened it and stepped aside. "Mom," she said brightly, "you look tired. Have you been resting?" I went to the bank. Her smile disappeared. Only for a moment, but I saw it. "Oh," she said. "Yes." She put the pasta salad on the counter. "Was something wrong?" "You tell me." Melissa looked toward the living room. Then she laughed softly. The way people laugh when they are trying to make a situation feel smaller than it is. "Mom, what is this about? The bank says nearly $40,000 has been transferred from my savings." Her face changed again. This time, the fear stayed. "I can explain." "Please do." She sat at the kitchen table, but she did not look at me. "It was temporary," she said. "I was going to put it back." "Why did you take it?" "I didn't take it." "Then why is it in an account under your name?" She swallowed. "Tyler needed help." "My grandson, Melissa's 19-year-old son. He had been accepted into a technical program in Columbus. He loved machines and engines the way William once had. I had already given him a graduation gift and offered to help with books." "What kind of help?" I asked. "Tuition, housing, everything. It all came due at once." "Melissa, you could have asked me." "I did ask you." "You asked me to think about a power of attorney?" "You always say no when it comes to big money." "Because it is my money." Her face hardened. "I'm your daughter." "Yes," I said. "You are." "And Tyler is your grandson?" "Yes." "He deserves a chance." "So you decided you deserved the right to take that chance from me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I knew you would make it into a lecture." "No. I am making it into a question. Why did you pretend to be me?" She looked away. That was answer enough. "I didn't know how else to do it," she whispered. "You could have told the truth?" I was embarrassed. "So you put me at risk instead." She suddenly stood. "You have more than enough. Mom, you have savings. You have the house. You have no mortgage. You sit here worrying about money while your grandson could have a future. The words struck me because they carried something I had heard before, though never spoken aloud. The belief that because I had saved carefully, my savings were waiting to be claimed. I stood too. My savings are not a punishment for you, I said. They are the result of work. My work. Your father's work? Melissa grabbed her tote bag. I was going to fix it. How? She did not answer. Melissa, I said. How are you going to put back nearly $40,000? Her eyes shifted toward the dining room. That was when I understood there was more, much more. After she left, I went to my desk and opened the small drawer where I kept the notebook William had used for our finances. It was gone. In its place was a folded piece of paper. At the top was a name I had never seen before, Carter Family Educational Trust. And beneath it was an account number followed by one sentence written in Melissa's handwriting. Do not let Mom see the other transfers. I did not sleep that night. The words on Melissa's note kept circling in my mind. Do not let Mom see the other transfers. Not one transfer. Not an emergency. Other transfers. I sat at my kitchen table until the sky outside the window began to turn gray. William's old ledger should have been in my desk drawer. Instead, there was an account number for a trust I had never approved, never funded, and never even heard of. By 8 o'clock, I had called Helen at the bank. I found something, I told her. Can you come in? Yes. This time, I did not go alone. Linda drove me, and I asked Claire Bennett to meet us there. I had learned something important in the days since the bank's first call. When you are frightened, you do not need to become louder. You need to become more organized. Helen brought us into the same office, with the frosted glass walls. But now there were 3 thick folders on the table. She looked uncomfortable. I need to explain that our fraud team found additional transactions after reviewing the account activity, she said. My hands were folded in my lap. How much? Helen looked at the papers. In addition to the $39,750 we discussed, there were 7 smaller electronic transfers over the last 9 months. The room went quiet. Smaller? I asked. Between $800 and $2,400. Claire reached for a calculator, but did not turn it on. What is the total? I asked. Helen with my eyes. $51,320. I had to say the number back to her. 51,000. Yes. The money had not disappeared all at once. That was what made it worse. Melissa had taken it carefully, quietly, in amounts small enough that I would not notice them between property taxes, home repairs, groceries, and the ordinary expenses of living alone. Helen placed a printout before me. Each transfer was listed by date, amount, and receiving account. The first 2 went to an account under the name Carter Family Educational Trust. The next 3 went to a company called Brightstone Financial Services. The last 2 were cash withdrawals made through an ATM near Melissa's apartment. I looked at Claire. What is Brightstone Financial Services? She made a note. We will find out. Helen continued. There is another issue. Someone changed the recovery phone number and email address attached to your online banking profile last fall. I didn't change either one. We know. The new number belongs to Melissa Carter. I felt a strange emptiness spread through me. The violation was no longer only about money. Melissa had changed the way the bank could reach me. She had redirected the warning signs before I had a chance to see them. Every alert that should have told me a transfer was happening had gone to her phone. Every message asking whether I recognized a change had gone to her email. She had built a wall around my own account and placed herself on the other side of it. How did the bank allow that? Claire asked. Helen swallowed. The online changes were made using the correct username, password, and security answers. I knew those answers. William's middle name, the street where I grew up, the name of my first dog. Melissa knew them too. The bank had verified that 2 of the changes occurred from a computer using my home internet connection. My own house. My own desk. My own computer. I pictured Melissa standing in the den while I rested upstairs after my fall. I pictured her saying she was looking for stamps. Maybe she had been looking for nothing. Maybe she had been waiting for me to stop asking questions. The fraud team had also reviewed the branch camera footage from the 2 in-person transfers. The woman wearing my blue coat had not been alone. A second camera angle showed her speaking to someone in the parking lot before she entered the bank. The person was Melissa. She had not only taken my identity, she had directed the person who used it. I stared at the image until I could no longer pretend there was a harmless explanation. "Who is that woman?" I asked. Helen shook her head. "We do not know yet. But the footage and the account changes have been provided to the investigators." Claire laid one hand over the printouts. "Rebecca, the most important thing right now is that we keep the facts straight. We know your daughter had access to your credentials. We know she changed your contact information. We know she received or controlled the transfer destination. And we know a person impersonated you at the branch." I nodded. The facts were terrible. But facts did not move around when you looked at them. They did not change depending on who cried the loudest or who called it a misunderstanding. Facts held still. That afternoon, Claire found out what Brightstone Financial Services was. It was not a financial institution. It was a debt settlement company. Melissa had enrolled in a program after falling behind on several credit cards and a personal loan. The company had been receiving automatic payments from the account she controlled. "Do you know anything about Melissa's debt?" Claire asked me. "No." Melissa had always lived well enough on the outside. Her apartment was neat. Tyler had new baseball equipment every season. She drove a car that was only 3 years old. She posted pictures of weekend brunches and concerts online. But I had never asked how she paid for it. I had assumed she was doing all right because she said she was. That was my blind spot. I believed the version of my daughter that she showed me because I wanted it to be true. The next person I called was Tyler. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Grandma?" "Hi, sweetheart. Are you somewhere private?" His voice changed immediately. "Yeah, I'm at my dorm. What's wrong?" I did not want to drag him into the middle of something he had not created. But I also would not let Melissa use his name as a shield. "Your mother told me she took money because you needed help with school." There was a long silence. Then Tyler said, "What money?" My chest tightened. "She said tuition and housing had come due." "Grandma, Mom helped with my deposit in August. But I have a scholarship, and I work at the garage on weekends." I closed my eyes. "Did she tell you there was a trust in your name?" "No." "Have you ever heard of the Carter Family Educational Trust?" "No." "Is that supposed to be mine?" "I don't know," I said honestly. His breathing sounded uneven. "Mom said you were upset because you were having trouble remembering things." There it was. The second betrayal. Not only had Melissa taken my money, she had prepared everyone around her to doubt me if I spoke. "What exactly did she say?" I asked. Tyler hesitated. "She said you were getting confused with bills and bank stuff. She said she was handling it so you wouldn't worry." I sat very still. "Tyler, I need you to hear me. I am not confused about this. I did not authorize any of those transfers." His voice was small when he answered, "I believe you." That mattered more than he knew. 2 days later, Officer Hale came to my house with a detective from the County Financial Crimes Unit. Her name was Detective Angela Ruiz. She had a calm face and a notebook filled with colored tabs. She sat at my dining room table and asked me to walk through everything from the beginning. The fall, Melissa's visits, the missing ledger, the power of attorney form, the blue coat, the bank call. I told them all of it. I did not soften the parts that made me uncomfortable. I did not say Melissa only meant well. I did not say she was under stress. Those things might have been true. They did not erase what she had done. Detective Ruiz asked whether Melissa had ever helped me file taxes. Not directly, I said, but she knew where I kept my documents. Did she have access to your social security number? Yes. Did she know your date of birth? Yes. Did she know your banking information? Yes. Every answer made the same point. Melissa had not needed to break into my life. I had opened the door because she was my daughter. After the detectives left, I sat in the quiet dining room and looked at the family photographs on the sideboard. There was Melissa, at 7, missing her front teeth and holding a library card I had helped her get. There was Daniel on his 10th birthday, covered in cake frosting. There was William standing behind both children at the county fair, one hand on each of their shoulders. I had spent years believing a good mother gave her children a soft place to land. I had not understood that if you never set a boundary, some people begin to mistake your home for an endless supply. Melissa arrived just before dinner. She did not knock. She used her key. I heard the lock turn. Then, her voice from the hallway. "Mum?" I stood from the table. "Stop right there," I said. She appeared in the doorway, holding a grocery bag. "What?" Put my key on the table. Her face drained of color. "Mum, please." Put it on the table. "I came to talk." "You can talk after you return my key." For the first time, I saw anger flash across her face. "You are treating me like a criminal." "I am treating you like someone who entered my house, changed my banking information, and took money without permission. You don't know all the details." "Then tell me." She set the grocery bag down so hard that an apple rolled across the floor. "I was behind," she said. "Okay?" "I was drowning in debt. The trust was supposed to help Tyler. The debt payments were supposed to buy me time." "Whose time?" "Mine." "And mine?" She looked away. "I was going to replace it." "With what?" She said nothing. "You had already taken over $50,000? You had changed my contact information so I would not know. You brought me a power of attorney form the night before the bank called. Were you planning to take more?" Her eyes rose to mine. For 1 second, I saw the answer. Then she shook her head. "No." But the answer had already been there. I stepped closer to the table. "Melissa, where is William's ledger?" She froze. "I don't know." "You do." "I threw it away." The room seemed to go silent. "You threw away the notebook your father kept for 40 years? I didn't think it mattered." "It mattered to me." "I'm sorry." "No," I said. "You are afraid." Her face crumpled. "I am both." I believed that was true, but I also knew the truth did not require me to rescue her from the consequences of it. "Put the key on the table," I said again. This time, she did. Then she reached into her purse. "I brought something," she whispered. She took out a sealed envelope and placed it beside the key. "What is that? The documents for the trust?" I did not touch them. "What documents?" "I'm listed as trustee." "And Tyler?" "He isn't the beneficiary." My hands went cold. "Then who is?" Melissa began to cry. But before she could answer, a sharp knock sounded at the front door. Detective Ruiz stood on my porch with Officer Hale beside her. She looked at Melissa, then at the envelope on my table. "Mrs. Clark," she said, "we need to speak with your daughter about information we received from the bank." Melissa turned pale. Detective Ruiz continued. The trust was not created for Tyler. She looked directly at Melissa. It was created to receive funds for a property purchase in your name. Melissa did not answer Detective Ruiz right away. She stood in my dining room, one hand pressed against the back of a chair, staring at the envelope she had brought. It was supposed to be for Tyler, she said at last. Detective Ruiz did not raise her voice. Then why is Tyler not listed as a beneficiary? Melissa looked at me. Not at the detective. At me? And I understood that she was still hoping I would save her from the truth. But I had spent too many years confusing rescue with love. I did not say a word. Detective Ruiz opened the envelope with gloves and removed the documents one page at a time. The Carter Family Educational Trust had been created 6 months earlier. Melissa was named trustee. Melissa was also named the sole beneficiary. Tyler's name did not appear anywhere in the document. The trust had been opened to receive funds toward the purchase of a small duplex outside Willow Creek. Melissa had planned to buy it through a seller financing agreement, make cosmetic repairs, and rent out both units. On paper, it sounded like an investment. In reality, it was a plan financed with money she had taken from me. The $39,000 from my savings had been transferred into the trust. Another $11,000 had been used to pay overdue personal debts. The remaining amount had gone toward Melissa's car payment, credit cards, and expenses she had never told anyone about. Tyler's tuition had not received $1. When Detective Ruiz explained that, Melissa sat down slowly. I was going to make it work, she whispered. You were going to buy a property with money that did not belong to you. I said, I thought I could pay it back once the duplex was rented. With what guarantee? She had no answer. There are people who make bad decisions in one terrible moment, and there are people who make a decision, see that it is wrong, then make 10 more decisions to hide the first one. Melissa had changed my contact information. She had taken my financial records. She had used my coat and purse, so another woman could impersonate me at the bank. She had told my grandson I was becoming confused. And then, when I began to ask questions, she had brought me a power of attorney form. The form had not been an act of care. It had been the next step. Detective Ruiz asked Melissa whether she was willing to come to the station to give a statement. Melissa looked at me again. This time, I spoke. You need to tell the truth. I said, not to make me feel better, not to protect yourself, because it is the only place you can start. Melissa began to cry, but she went with the detectives. After the front door closed, I stood in the same spot for a long time. Linda had arrived while the detectives were speaking. She came into the dining room without saying anything and put her arms around me. I leaned into her shoulder. Not because I was weak, because I was tired. There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes after betrayal. It is not the tiredness of working too many hours or sleeping badly. It is the tiredness of realizing you must now examine memories you once thought were safe. I thought about every time Melissa had brought me flowers, every time she had asked whether I needed help, every time she had told me not to worry about the details. Some of it may have been love, but love had been mixed with calculation, and that was the part I could not ignore. The bank's investigation took several weeks. Helen called me regularly, always with the same calm voice. She told me the bank had confirmed that its internal procedures had not been fully followed during the in-person transactions. The employee who approved the withdrawal had accepted a person who looked similar to me without completing every required verification step. The bank restored a portion of the disputed funds, while it pursued recovery through its investigation and insurance process. The rest became part of the financial case against Melissa and the woman who had impersonated me. I did not receive every dollar back at once. Real life is not that tidy. Some money had already been spent. Some would have to be repaid over time. Some required paperwork, reviews, and decisions that moved at the pace of offices and courts. But I had records. I had the transaction history. I had the security footage. I had the altered account information, the trust documents, Linda's statement, Tyler's statement, and Melissa's own admission. The truth did not need to be dramatic. It only needed to be documented. Melissa eventually admitted that the woman at the bank was a former co-worker named Kendra. She had offered Kendra a few $100s to wear my coat, carry my purse, and use a copy of my driver's license that Melissa had taken from my desk. Melissa said she had chosen the day carefully. She knew I had a physical therapy appointment across town. She knew Linda would be at a doctor's visit that afternoon. She knew no one would see me while someone else pretended to be me. That knowledge cut deeply. It meant the betrayal had not been impulsive. It had been scheduled. The prosecutor's office later offered Melissa an agreement after she accepted responsibility and cooperated with the investigation. I did not control the legal outcome. And I did not try to. What I did control was my own boundary. Through Claire, I requested full restitution. No unsupervised access to my financial information. And no access to my home without my express permission. Melissa was required to repay the funds she had taken. She had to complete financial counseling and community service as part of the resolution. The duplex deal fell apart. The seller canceled the agreement when the source of the down payment came under investigation. The trust was dissolved before it could buy anything. Melissa lost the deposit she had made with money from her own account. For the first time, she faced a consequence that did not shift onto someone else. The hardest conversation came with Tyler. He came home from Columbus one Saturday morning, carrying a backpack and looking older than 19. We sat at the kitchen table where Melissa had first asked me to sign the power of attorney form. Tyler turned his coffee mug between both hands. "I'm sorry, Grandma," he said. "You have nothing to apologize for." "But Mom said she did it for me." "I know." His eyes filled with tears. "I didn't ask her to." "I know that too." He looked toward the window. "I feel like everyone is going to think I'm using you." I reached across the table and held his hand. "Listen to me. Your mother's choices are not your inheritance." He looked back at me. "You are allowed to build a life without carrying what she did." For a while, we sat quietly. Then I opened the drawer beside the stove and took out a new folder. Inside was a real education account. Not the false trust Melissa had created. A simple account established with Claire's help, with clear records. A bank officer who knew me. And Tyler listed properly as the beneficiary. The money would be used only for his books, certified fees, and tuition. Payments would go directly to the school whenever possible. I had not put a large amount into it. Not because I did not want to help him, but because I had learned that generosity needs structure. "You do not have to accept this," I told him. Tyler looked at the papers, then at me. "I'll earn some of it," he said. "I know you will." "I mean it. I'll keep working." "I know." He began to cry. And then I did too. Not because the pain was gone. Because for the first time in months, something honest had entered the room. Melissa wrote to me after her first counseling session. The letter was longer than the one Daniel had sent after he tried to sell my home. It was filled with apologies, explanations, and memories. She wrote that she had felt ashamed of her debt. She wrote that she had been jealous of how stable my life looked. She wrote that after her divorce, she had been terrified of failing Tyler. I understood fear. I understood shame. But I also understood that neither one gave her the right to steal from me. I wrote back only once. I told her that I loved her. Then I told her I would not speak about rebuilding a relationship until she had spent time rebuilding her honesty. That was all. No long lecture. No promise that everything would return to normal. Because normal was the place where she had hidden. I changed every password connected to my life. I installed a lock on the desk in my den, I updated my banking profile and added extra account alerts that came only to my phone and email. I changed the locks on my doors, not because I wanted to live in fear, but because I wanted to feel at peace when I turned the key at night. Linda helped me hang a small wooden plaque in the hallway. It was something I had found years ago at a craft fair but never bought. The words said, "Kindness without boundaries becomes an invitation." Every morning, I passed that plaque on the way to make coffee, and every morning, I remembered that I could love my daughter without handing her control over my life. A year later, Tyler sent me a picture from the garage, where he worked part-time. He was standing beside an engine he had rebuilt for his final project, his face streaked with grease, smiling the way William used to smile when he fixed something difficult. The message beneath the photo said, "Finished it. Grandma. Thought Grandpa would like this." I printed that picture and placed it beside William's old ledger. The ledger had been found after all. Detective Ruiz recovered it from a storage bin. Melissa had rented under a false name. She had not thrown it away. She had taken it because it contained notes about my savings, account numbers, and the careful habits she thought made me easy to predict. But William's notebook had survived, and so had I. I still saw Melissa occasionally after that, but only on terms that protected my peace. We met in public places. We spoke for short periods. There were no keys, no passwords, no requests for money, and no pretending that an apology had erased the past. Trust did not come back because she wanted it. Trust returned only in small pieces, earned over time. That was not punishment. That was dignity. If Rebecca's story moved you, please like this video, subscribe to Truth and Dignity Stories, and turn on notifications for more stories about family betrayal, independence, and finding the courage to protect what you have earned. And tell me in the comments, if someone you loved took money without permission, but showed real accountability, would you forgive them or would trust be gone forever?